Do you pay attention to the frequency of the music you're listening to? Do you know what the difference is between 432 Hz and 440 Hz? Where do these Hertz concepts originate from, and what implications does it have for us? How did we figure out what frequency is ideal for the human ear, brain, and mind to listen to? Is there a frequency sweet spot that the ear and brain would rather listen to things at? And if so, what happens when we're not listening at the optimum frequency? Could the things we listen to at a certain frequency also be used to hurt us or even influence and control us? Time to find out now on Edge of Wonder.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Edge of Wonder. We're your hosts, I'm Rob.
And I'm Ben. Many of you have been emailing us and commenting on videos requesting that we cover the topic of 432 Hertz versus the 440 Hertz.
And we know you've been waiting so long, it hurts. Get it? Look, for the record, I didn't write that line.
That was pretty bad,
Yeah.
even for me. Well, what's the big deal about it? A Google or YouTube search will return tons of videos and articles covering this topic from a historical, scientific approach and others that take a more spiritual approach. Some folks believe in it and swear by its positive properties, and others call it a hoax and try to dismiss it or debunk it.
There's one camp of people who believe that setting the middle A note to 432 Hertz achieves a more natural frequency that is aligned with the universe and our natural vocal range and the Earth's frequency, also known as the Schumann resonance, 7.83 Hertz.
Some research we'll cover later provides evidence that music tuned to 432 Hertz sounds complete, correct, peaceful, and sun-like, whereas music tuned to 440 Hertz sound uncomfortable, oppressive, and narrow-minded.
Some of the skeptics claim that it's all a big conspiracy and the concept of the Hertz was established by the International Electrotechnical Commission, the IEC, in 1930. So how could people back then tune music to Hertz?
We're going to take a more holistic approach and examine those arguments. So stick around to the end because our conclusion will surprise you.
But first, let's rewind a bit. What's a Hertz?
A Hertz is a unit of frequency from the International System of Units, named after the German physicist Heinrich Hertz. It measures 1 cycle per second. There are also larger units called kilohertz, megahertz, and even ultrahertz.
Ultrahertz sounds awesome. For context, audible sounds range from 20 Hz to 16,000 Hz. Radios use kilohertz, megahertz, or gigahertz. Central processing units, or CPUs, in a computer have their clock rate expressed in megahertz or gigahertz. And I don't know what any of that means.
Well, there's some cool videos made on YouTube that visualize different types of frequencies at different hertz through schematics. The science of sound made visible.
John Stuart Reid, who developed Cinescope, an instrument used in cymatics, says on his site, quote, "When sound enters a membrane such as your skin or the surface of water, it imprints an invisible pattern of energy. In other words, the periodic vibrations in the sound sample are converted and become periodic water ripples, creating beautiful geometric patterns that reveal the once hidden realm of sound," unquote.
Here are some images produced from the Cinescope for 440 Hertz and 432 Hertz. These images probably remind you of the images from the late Dr. Masaru Emoto's water memory experiment. We did a water video on this, so be sure to check out that video after you finish this one.
The main takeaway here from the water memory experiment is that water contained labels with positive words or classical music resulted in snowflakes to crystallize in beautiful structures, whereas ones labeled with negative words or heavy metal look ugly. Really ugly.
If you don't remember or just don't know who he is, we'll refresh your memory and bring you up to speed. Dr. Emoto is the chief of the Hado Institute in Tokyo and author of the best-selling books Message from Water and Hidden Messages in Water.
We also wanted to share a quote of his. Quote, "Words are the vibrations of nature. Therefore, beautiful words create beautiful nature. Ugly words create ugly nature. This is the root of the universe," unquote.
So Dr. Emoto defines a concept of Hado as the intrinsic vibrational vibrational pattern at the atomic level in all matter, the smallest unit of energy. Its basis is the energy of human consciousness.
How we understand this is that all matter has a vibrational pattern or frequency, and our human consciousness also has a frequency. So Ben, I hear you brought your guitar in today.
I did.
Well, why don't you play both of those, 432 and 440, and then let's see if we can hear the difference.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So Rob, what do you think?
I mean, the second one sounded, there was something about it, like something like the resonation in it just sounded different to me, and it sounded somehow better or like more beautiful or magical.
It's very interesting, actually.
Why? Which one was it?
So the 432 is this one, the last one I played.
Really?
Yeah.
So, okay, so to my ear, that actually sounds better.
And I think, you know, it's weird, like playing now, like it's interesting because it is a half step down from like a regular, like you're tuning down a half step.
Right.
So it's easier to sing, actually.
Well, that
for
makes
some
sense.
people, like some people,
hard to hit those high notes, especially for guys, right?
exactly. So a lot of albums, like they'll actually record it, and I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or not. But it's interesting, you know. I think I'm going to kind of experiment more with this because playing it does feel a little different now that I'm playing it here than the kind of the higher pitch.
Yeah, and this room has pretty good sound.
Yeah, it does.
So you can definitely hear the difference in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think?
Did you think the first one was 440 or 432 hertz? Let us know in the comments below. Next, let's go back in time a bit to find out where and when did these 440 hertz and 432 hertz concept even come from.
According to a 1989 New York Times article by Fred T. Abdella, he writes, quote, "The A used by most symphony and opera orchestras today for uniform tuning ranges between 440 Hz or cycles per second to 444 Hz.
Here's how some 17th century composers tune. George Friedrich Handel favored an A pitched at 422 Hz.
Mozart tuned to an A at 421.6 Hz. The French composers standardized their A at 435 Hz in 1858, and 20 plus years later, Italian composer Giuseppe Verdi advocated but failed in getting a bill passed by the Italian parliament to tune at A 432 Hz.
Cue the music.
But getting back to the Italian composer Verdi, why did he choose to tune A to 432 Hz?
It's quite logical. Verdi wrote his operas for this tuning because he was a thoughtful and intelligent person who understood voices and wrote for voices.
Piero Capocilli spoke at an international conference on Verdi in Milan in 1988 and said, quote, "Taking the pitch up to the present level, the strain on the vocal cords is too accentuated. This is why many singers, after 4, 5, or 6 years of their careers, encounter great difficulties, because they are straining the vocal cords in an unnatural way."
In short, Verdi tuned A to 432 Hz to align with traditional Italian bel canto school and for optimal music performance, so opera singers can protect their vocal cords.
The company, an opponent of higher tuning, believes that a higher pitch is detrimental to instruments and the human voices striving to keep up with them.
Anthony Morse, conductor of the Lubo Opera, prefaced the concert with a commentary on the Verdi pitch. Quote, "All the great bel canto composers wrote for a pitch of about A432.
So when did it become A440 Hertz, and why does that even matter? I mean, it's just 8 Hertz, right?
In the 19th century, Europe saw a trend raising pitch level in operatic and orchestral performances due to larger venues and the evolution of instrument making.
Then, when broadcasting, or more specifically music broadcasting, became a thing and listeners could listen globally, the broadcasting industry found a need to standardize the concert pitch so influential people and organizations like the British Royal Philharmonic uses higher pitched like the 439 Hertz.
Most music worldwide has adopted tuning A to 440 Hz since the International Standards Organization ISO reaffirmed it in 1953.
And prior to that, Radio Berlin Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels' mouthpiece organized a conference in 1939 to urge the 440 Hz standard. This conference laid the groundwork for the 1955 decision to officially set that standard,
which you can read about more in Laurent Rosenfeld's article called How the Nazis Ruined Musical Tuning, published in the September 1988 edition of the magazine Executive Intelligence Review. This is where the conspiracy comes in that the Nazis changed this on purpose.
Then in America, J.C. Deegan, a Navy man, got intrigued by frequencies after attending a lecture by Hermann Helmholtz, a 19th century German physicist and physiologist who wrote The Theory of the Sensations of Tone as a Foundation of Music Theory.
Deegan created bells and chimes in 440 Hz and married into a prominent German family, the Funks. I mean, it is music.
It is. Yeah, that's funny.
Which gave
I wonder if that's where the term funk came from.
Yeah. Okay, which gave him the financial and social means to influence music societies to change concert pitch to A440 Hz.
One of his most notable contributions that many recognize today is his iconic tritone used by NBC. Now you guys can add your own acronym to that one.
Boom, boom, boom.
Who are some of the folks supporting the argument for tuning A to 432 Hertz, and who are the people refuting that claim?
One advocate of 432 Hz is Brian T. Collins, yes, a Collins, who runs a site called Omega 432. His main arguments for 432 Hz are geometric proportions of A432 Hz align with naturally occurring Fibonacci patterns in the human body, like the cochlea and DNA, Saturn's planetary cycles, and the geometry observed at the Stonehenge, none of which I really understand.
Well, we're going to get into some of that in a minute.
Hope so.
But if what he says is true, then that's a lot of mathematical coincidences, or perhaps it's a sign that there are intelligent design from the divine creator. But it is interesting how there are aligning with this with Saturn's planetary orbits.
Actually, David Icke has suggested that the hexagon storm on Saturn is actually a massive frequency created by some kind of technology. So according to some scientists he talked with, the hexagon is being created on purpose.
It would be very interesting to try to recreate the sound frequency to see if we can replicate it, to see if we can get that same pattern, but that would be for a whole different episode.
But back to this episode, Dr. Leonard G. Horowitz, another proponent of 432 Hz and also 444 Hz, which he claims is not better or worse than 432 Hz, arrived at similar conclusions through a slightly different approach. He writes, quote, "Biocreation and health restoration may have more to do with certain frequencies and vibrations of sound energy or music than has been thought."
More simply, life and health may be related to or may be affected by frequencies like music. Our bodies are made up of 70% water, and Dr. Emoto and other peers confirm that water indeed can be affected by music.
With those for a movement, there are those against it. One opposer, who's also a composer named Dr. Milton Merkides, wrote a post calling those arguments supporting 432 Hz fallacious, contradictory, misinformed, and/or unevidenced, and plays devil's advocate here by saying there are far better music areas of development than the subtle differences in Hertz.
Some of the most popular videos about this topic on YouTube present both sides of the argument and just body slam this 432 Hz argument. We're not going to name those channels.
Well, I'm not going to try to tackle that since I'm not a professional musician. Ben is kind of a professional, but you know.
Yeah. But the tuning is just one piece in a larger movement to degrade classical music and to attack classical music.
So what's been happening to music from Bach and Mozart's times all the way through Verdi and all the way through World War II? Well, it's evolved to become more based in the senses, the sensual effect of music.
You can hear this transformation in music from Wilhelm Richard Wagner, Richard George Strauss, or Igor Stravinsky.
Did y'all know that the Rite of Spring was about pagan rituals and human sacrifice?
Definitely dig into this yourself. It's pretty shocking stuff. You would think that that kind of orchestral music should be safe from human sacrifice, but I mean, the Luma donkey has her hands in everything.
Actually, it kind of reminds me of that movie coming out soon called Midsummer, which is also about messed up rituals and human sacrifice and stuff.
Anyways, throughout the years, there's been this new musical movement trying to promote the idea that ugliness is music. Of course, this just sounds wrong.
We'll save the topic of the corruption of culture through music in a future episode. Definitely stay tuned for that.
As a quick reminder, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on the notification bell to get all the notifications so you know when we release a new video.
So there's this idea of truth in music and truth in culture. Whether it was Verdi, Pavarotti, or other composers or opera singers, they all agreed that the best way was the natural way of singing bel canto.
So in our research, we kept coming across the concepts throughout history that music can heal you or harm you, and real evidence of how it manifests in our world. If you want a place with no weird agendas, a place where you know you'll always get the truth about all kinds of crazy and fascinating topics, you gotta check out edgeofwonder.tv.
If you can, please support us, guys, because this is an opportunity for us to grow edgeofwonder.tv into an awesome platform for all of us like-minded people who want to know the truth and not be misled by the mainstream media, or even social media for that matter. Get access to our exclusive content right here.
Right now.
How can frequencies or music heal us? How is that even possible? For starters, the Chinese believed that music had healing properties. In fact, the character for medicine, Yao, originates from the character Yue, which means music.
From the east to the west, the ancient to the modern, music has been used to heal. There are countless studies and stories of people recovering after undergoing music therapy.
An article from the Harvard Health Publishing covers how a music therapist realized how she could use music to improve invasive procedures, restore lost speech, reduce side effects of cancer therapy, aid pain relief, and improve the quality of life for dementia patients.
This gets even better. Music can also help decrease crime. In 2004, British Transport Police played classical music in London's metro stations and were astonished with the results within 6 months. Robberies were down 33%, assaults on metro staff fell by 25%, and cases of vandalism decreased 37%.
Man, that's so interesting. So here in New York, you may notice an occasional 7-Eleven blasting classical music outside. Normally, there's a bunch of homeless people that loiter in front of 7-Elevens, but I found that when the classical music plays, there's usually no people hanging around in front. Like the one by West 4th subway station, you know that one?
Yeah, it's funny. I heard it before and figured that must be what they were doing. Music is also great for animals, according to Modern Farmer magazine. The cows find it easy to release oxytocin and relieve their stress while listening to music. This improves their milk productivity.
The only real mystery here is scientists don't know which songs cows like. Look, there's a whole field of zoomusicology, or the study of music for animals and how sounds are received by animals. There may or may not be an episode on that in the future. Who knows?
Alright, music can also be used to enhance other living things like plants and bacteria. Japanese farmers and brewers play Mozart near fruit as it grows, near sake as it ferments.
Isamu Akuda, a representative from the Hyogo fruit company, Mozart Bananas, said that they believe playing Mozart while the bananas ripen makes the bananas sweeter, and it's no joke.
Over the past few decades, other purveyors have exposed a wide variety of foods and beverages to classical vibrations. Soy sauce in Kyoto, udon noodles in Tokyo, miso in Yamagata Prefecture, Maitake mushrooms in Ishikawa Prefecture, Beethoven bread in Nagoya, Aichi Prefecture, to name a few.
In 1973, Dorothy Redelac published The Sound of Music and Plants, which details experiments that she conducted playing different types of music for plants in different chambers.
In the chamber with the soothing music, the plants grew and their stems bent towards the radio. In the rock chamber, half the plants had small leaves and other half grew sickly or stunted.
Fast forward 16 days, most plants in the rock chamber were dying, while in the other chamber, the plants were alive, beautiful, and growing abundantly. Stop listening to rock.
Although the skeptics would say otherwise, but it's hard to say. Maybe we should do our own experiments. Now,
Maybe not.
Now, we're not trying to insinuate that you should stop listening to rock music.
I am.
But you should at least be aware and informed of what music, good or bad, can do to living plants, let alone you.
So we heard about how music and frequencies can be used to heal and help us and the world around us. But how can it be used to hurt, control, or influence us negatively?
Nikola Tesla once said, quote, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration."
Now, in the wise words of the late rapper XXX Tentacion, music is frequency programming.
He even goes on to disclose the rest of what he learned with his Instagram followers. Quote, "With those frequencies, I can target certain parts of the mind. If I want you to astral project, if I want you to go to sleep, or go into a meditative state, I can make my music do that."
That is totally nuts if that's true.
So check this out. Here's a few patents that kind of back up what this rapper is saying.
Okay, there's this patent that's for an apparatus that manipulates the subject nervous system through acoustic pulses of less than 15 hertz. These resonances can cause the subject to feel relaxation, drowsiness, or arousal. Nothing crazy to see here yet.
The next one is weird. This patent writes that, quote, "This invention is concerned with the application of stimuli to human subject to induce different states of consciousness."
Induce different states of consciousness to a human subject? What?
And it goes on to say that there's the scientific proof that there's a correlation between certain wave rhythms in the brain and certain states of consciousness. When someone is relaxed, the brain exhibits alpha rhythms at 7 to 14 hertz. When aroused or anxious, it falls between 14 and 28 hertz, or the beta rhythms. When asleep, it exhibits the delta rhythm in the 1.75 to 3.5 hertz.
Other brainwave rhythms have been identified, which are theta between 3.5 to 7 hertz, gamma at 28 to 56 hertz, omega at 0.875 to 1.75 hertz, epsilon at 56 to 112 hertz, and zeta at 112 to 224 hertz, because we like giving you a lot of information you can't do anything with.
Let's break this down further. The patent is saying that there was someone out there working on a device to alter brainwave rhythms to a certain frequency to control a person's state of consciousness.
And you know what? The names of these brainwave rhythms on this patent remind me of MK Ultra mind control codes: alpha, beta, delta, gamma, omega, epsilon, and zeta.
And there you go. And these codes seem to correspond to the different types of programming. Alpha programming exposes the public to Illuminati symbolism, the Eye of Providence, the pyramid, and the Freemason symbols like the compass, ruler, and the pentagram.
It also aims to impose the agenda onto the populace, like consumerism, propaganda, and surveillance.
Beta programming is sexual programming, spanning the princess programming to the sex slave programming, and you can see how these femme fatale, warrior women, princess, and sex slave characters are rampant in popular music videos and even in movies.
One of the grossest parts of beta programming is related to the child stuff. But we're not going to get into that here. I mean, they're putting children through all kinds of programming, even the ones we're not listening.
Delta programming trains a standing army of potential killers.
Gamma programming is to protect the deep state scheme through deception, misinformation, and half-truths. So they usually will mix truth with a crazy lie, so people will keep believing their horrible agenda is just a myth. We just know it as fake news.
All this information about personality programming came from a lecture by D.C. Hammond entitled Hypnosis and MPD Ritual Abuse. And for those who might look into this stuff, it gets very, very dark very quickly. We advise you to proceed with caution because how they program people is basically through repeated torture. And I mean, we talked about this a lot on a lot of our episodes.
We covered more of it in one of our videos, and we'll save the rest for another episode. If you haven't seen our MK Ultra video, check it out.
We've got another bombshell for you all. According to an ex-Illuminati programmer trainer, Walt Disney was an illuminist, and his film Fantasia was used to program children.
Nothing would surprise me about Disney.
Yeah, we've been wanting to do that one for a while.
Yeah.
Fritz Springmeier goes really deep into it.
Yeah, he does. Music affects a person's body chemistry, health, and psychoneuroimmunology, or the mind's effect on health and disease resistance.
Some of the music promoted by major media and music companies are charged with aggression, depression, and steer further away from the nature and the divine.
We're definitely going to do a deep dive into the music industry. We'll be releasing a mini-series exposing the dark side of the music industry on our exclusive platform, edgeofwonder.tv. If you could support us there, we'd really appreciate it. It'll help us keep putting out content here on YouTube and content we can't put here on our own platform.
To wrap up, we think at the heart of this debate between 432 and 440 Hertz, it's not a big deal to prefer one frequency to another. There's just some stuff out there left for interpretation. Some of us take things at face value, and some are finding out whether there's something greater than us, something greater than our understanding of modern science.
And we think there is. We're not too hung up on the numbers here as much as we are the messages that people are trying to send out with their sound waves and music.
Yeah, last night as I was playing around with both frequencies, I realized that the 432 Hertz is just a half step down, really. So I tended to play more kind of a brooding kind of music because it was just more of a fuller.
Not as bright.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't really feel too much of a difference. Physically, I think it really depends on the intent and the heart people have when they make songs that move people in an uplifting way. But what do you think?
I actually totally agree. I think it's way more important the intent behind something than it is the actual numbers in this case. Because you can't, I mean, look at Emoto's work showed us that when the heart behind something is bad, it radically changes the result of those frozen crystals, right? So it has everything to do with the heart, in my opinion.
Well, and with that, you guys, we'll see you out
On the edge
of 432. Dude, I'm curious what cows would choose over like Slayer or, Bach.
You see the cow just like head banging in the ground, trying to put their paw up.